Well, it's hard to believe it's here already. But one way or another, I guess we got to get started. It's another Veterans Day deal for us, and a little different than this one. We're not traveling all over the world, but I think we're gonna appreciate still our men and women of the military as it's been going on all week. I think the opportunity to go to the Naval Academy is one that I've looked forward to for many years. And finally that'll happen. We are going out a day early because they are setting this up in a way where we can, we're going to get a lot of tours and a lot of things that we can do on Thursday. I think the biggest thing for us is see if we can handle now the distractions of that and still at the same time play an important game. This team is going to be a challenge for us because they got 5 starters back. And they had a kid sitting out last year that started 10 games, and he's back now, and he was their best point guard by far. We've got a tough opening schedule from the standpoint of not always the teams, but I'm a little disappointed. It took me a long time to figure out that the season's been shrunk by a week because of the Masters, I guess, and everything. And I mean, we've got a lot of games coming up here in a short period of time. I think from Friday to the following Sunday, we got 5 games. It's like an NBA schedule. And so those kind of things worry you when you got young teams. But as far as Navy goes, they've got 3 players back that average more than 11 a game, and a couple of their seniors, Venturian, who is from Michigan, and Smith, started almost every game over the last 2 seasons. The point guard, Dunbar, is the key to this game. I think he makes it a lot better for them. He did a great job last year in the first 10 games and then was suspended for whatever reason. But he was their leading scorer back then, and he'll be quick, dynamic guard. As far as we go, the injuries haven't changed much. Forbes will probably play a little bit because he can play with it like a Morris Peterson did. It's not as bad, but it's just something that he's going to have the cast on or the brace on for a while. JB, Javon Bess is still out and will be out for sure till after Thanksgiving, probably middle of December. What I liked about the last game, I thought we were better defensively. I thought we did a better job maybe handling the ball screens and that we felt we did a poor job of the week before. But to be very honest with you, I didn't think either team played as well as I'd hoped they played. And again, you watch different teams around the country and everybody's going through the same thing. Next year, I'm probably going to end up scrimmaging have a Division II team and then a good Division I scrimmage, which might change it up a little bit, just because I think it would do us even more good. So still a little bit confused on where we are. I know we can shoot the ball. I know we can get the ball up and down the court. It'll be interesting to see if we can rebound and defend in the post. It was definitely a benefit to get Schilling and Costello to both play a lot better. Is that because of the competition, or is that because they played better? I think a little bit of both. So I'll open it up to some questions, and we can go from there.
Last year, your team was 1 or 2. You left out of New York City's Madison Square Garden with a sense of disappointment. You're used to those expectations. What do you go say to your friend Mark Dantonio when this team has a legitimate shot at a New Year's Day Bowl and 10 wins, and people are acting as if the sky's fallen? You've been there. You've done it. What do you say to them?
Well, first of all, kind of disappointed my good friend Drew Sharp isn't here, but he must have been in the bar for a couple of nights from what I heard his evaluation was. I consider that a little bit more of an educated opinion than most fans have. But yeah, it's a tough question because I'm just opening myself up to getting killed, but I kind of enjoy that at this stage of my career. And I felt for Mark. Him and I talked a couple of weeks ago. With the chance to be 10-2, 11-2, I mean, that's still one of the top 5 or 6 records in the history of this school. And I think the difference, I mean, my personal opinion was, it was a hell of a ball game. and the second half it got away a little bit, and I think it's because we didn't, capitalize on those turnovers and those field goals and that the first half and against good teams. And I honestly thought, I watched Ohio State 3 times, that they played as good as they could play. So it wasn't like we went and got beat by a team that wasn't any good. I mean, they're very good, and we played pretty good most of it. And I know Mark was a little disappointed in some things that we did too. But as far as the fans go, you got to learn. You never want to learn how to lose, but you do have to learn how to win and realize where your program's at. The next step for him is, he has to adjust to being hunted. Players have to adjust to being hunted, and our fans have to adjust to being hunted. And it's not an easy task. It's not like Oklahoma this week. It gets beat at home by a zillion. I just thought it was a great game, great atmosphere, great play. I was pleased that we're in the positions we're in. It was a great weekend with all the activities here from first take to game day. And I think sometimes maybe players have to adjust to that, the distractions. We haven't always handled that great, and we've been doing it a few more years because every year there's still new players. And until you really get the tradition where that's just part of it, which we've gotten a little bit there, so that players from the past are telling players from the present how to handle it. But I'm not worried about Mark Dantonio. I think the job he's done has been phenomenal. And I would just warn our fans that if it's as bad as you say or as bad as Drew thinks, wow. Ready for the target. Get a clue. Because you have no clue. Get a clue. But for most of them that I think are been and will be very supportive, down is, again, I always said I thought the Final Four, getting a playoff was great. I always thought it should have been 8 teams. And I think, we're all adjusting to what it's like when, you have this kind of situation. I mean, we don't have it till the very end, till the tournament. So if we lose a game to Nebraska with 2 weeks left, and it's a way bigger upset than this game was with Ohio State, people don't cave in, they don't go crazy, because this football, the way it is right now, nobody knows how to handle it. The committee doesn't. This is, new territory, and we're all going to adjust. You add that with the new conference thing, the new who you play once, who you play none. There's a lot of things we're all adjusting to as coaches, as players, and in respect for our fans as fans. But boy, I do have to stick up for my one thing. This is a very good team, but it's even developed into a better program. And that's what I think we got to keep our sights on. Where's the program at? The program is a national program now that has a bullseye on its back and is adjusted just fine and will be just fine. And I don't have to give him any real advice. I'll give him a little friendship, because I think only coaches really know what that's like to go through. What's that? Yeah, I'm going to call Drew just to let him know, because he's usually pretty bad, but he went to awful.
All right. Did you break down any game film? No, I'm just kidding. You've talked about the chemistry and the leadership of this team. You have this year how much you like the leadership. Is this a nice early test for them, knowing that you have a Duke game in a few days after this, not to just see Navy and think?
The one advantage of playing any opening game, you're never looking past anybody, especially when you go to a place like this, and we know Eddie well. Eddie's done I loved Eddie at Penn State. I just think he runs good stuff. It'll be a challenge for us in that respect. I don't think anybody will be looking forward to anybody else, because it is an opening game, it isn't a unique event. Is it a good challenge? It's a good challenge. What's a little more difficult than I thought looking at it, I'm involved in the scheduling that they say, do you want to play this team? Do you want to play this team? And I'm always saying yes. What I don't get involved in as much is the dates. And like I said, it's going to get a little brutal here for what I consider us to be a young team. For first of all, 6 out of 8 on the road, but second of all, the number of games. I think we play Monday, Thursday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday. That next week after. I mean, it's going to be a lot of games. So we're just going to have to keep our guys focused on one game at a time. And yeah, I think it's a good test because I think it'll be a very disciplined, organized team that runs their stuff real well, and that'll be important that we can defend that. I think the 2 exhibition games, that wasn't done quite as well as I'd liked it to have been done.
Tom, what's your evaluation of your 2 big guys through a month of practice and 2 exhibitions, and where do they have to be by next Tuesday?
Well, Schilling definitely has made the most progress in the preseason. I think he had a farther way to go, but also remember that Costello had that high ankle sprain, missed about 8 days, and then when he came back, he didn't do much. So Costello's still trying to get back in shape, but if you look at the last game, they both did what we need them to do, and that's what they're going to have to do Friday night. They're going to have to play good together. If they play 20 minutes each, if we could ever get what they gave us this week, which was 28 and 15, I like our chances against a lot of teams. But a realistic, can we get 18 points, 16 points? Can we get 12 rebounds, 13 rebounds out of that position? I think would be something we're really looking forward to. So they're making progress. Gavin's made the most progress recently, and part of that was, I think, because of Matt's injury.
Tom, you've mentioned the exhibitions a couple of times. The second one particularly you thought would be a little more competitive. Did you learn maybe not quite as much about your team in the preseason as you might have hoped?
Yeah, that part's been a little harder for me to evaluate, because it'd be nice to give your team more credit. You still got to make shots, but I don't know. I thought we got too many shots too easy, and I didn't think when you look at St. Cloud, they played awfully well against us last time we played them, and I just didn't think they played as well, and I don't think Matt thought they did either. So, are we a little better than I thought at this point? Maybe. Are we not? Maybe. Yeah, I don't really know, but at the same time, we got to do some things we wanted to do. We got to play some people. I think it was good for Marvin Clark to get a little more experience. It was good for Tom to realize what he can and can't do. So we got some things out of it. There's no question about that.
Tom, you said Bryn was going to play a little bit. So his minutes are going to be limited with that brace?
Well, you know what? I don't really know, and here's why I say that. With his left hand and being not as mobile, you can say, well, Morris played like that. There's a different injury to a different player. I mean, Morris was a forward, and we could, and we were at a different point in time. We weren't supposed to be any good. Nobody cared if we were any good. Nobody prepared for us. Nobody took away his right hand. It was just a completely different time. Before the Twitter era, there wasn't as much information out, I don't know how he's going to play now that teams will game plan for him, and I don't know how much he can get done with that thing, but he has practiced pretty well with it, and I guess only game time will tell. I thought by this time Bryn was to the point where, he might have been a starter, and right now he's just trying to bring him off the bench and get what we can get, and yet we're going to have to see as the competition steps up how he reacts to that, and I don't know how that'll be yet. So I'm trying not to plan for too much in case the reality sets in of he can't do as much as you'll be able to do a couple weeks from now.
Tom, having played on military installations at the Citadel, what do you think the exposure to that discipline, that regimen, does your team get out of that either by osmosis or directly impacted by the military people you see?
Well, I think anywhere you're around people that are so structured and disciplined, and then you start going to a couple of the events that they're going to have us going to where, you maybe have a better appreciation that college life is a little different there than it is at your own institution. I think it's a positive, so I think the day, they've got a lot of activities planned on Thursday morning and early afternoon, and then we get into practice, and other than that, we just have a dinner that night. So the first 6 hours, 7 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is, of Thursday should be filled with a lot of activities, and I think it's going to be good. I mean, I've always thought it's been great. We've won some, we've lost some. We've actually lost more than we've won, but it's for different reasons. And honoring them, I've enjoyed watching the NFL and what they've done, and I think, in all honesty, we've done a good job as a sports nation of finding a way where we can give back something to the people that do 10 times more for us than we do for them. And maybe all we're giving back is awareness and trying to let people know what these people are doing. But it's kind of caught fire where everybody's getting involved now. And I'm thankful that we were part of some of the first things that happened in this, and it's been great. So I'm looking forward to that experience, and I think my players are too.
Hey, Tom, tying into Grins's question, when you go on the road normally, I mean, you've been to New York City and not seen the city. In Chicago, you don't see the city. You've been to Gonzaga, all you see is Judd. I mean, coaches...
That's a lot.
Coaches live pretty boring lives, but do you, in these military environments, do you take time to smell the coffee a little bit outside of basketball too, more than you normally do?
I did over in Europe when we went there. And I guess I did when the aircraft carrier, the day before, you spend a little time. And this thing where it's organized and set up for us, and I think this is going to be a tradition there. And if it is, I think he'll do a heck of a job. I think it's going to be great, and I think it'll give me a chance to look at it a little bit. You do have the concerns of making sure your players focus in, but that is just like a Final Four or a Elite Eight, Sweet 16, where there's all kinds of falderall going around you, and you got to learn to focus in on the task at hand. So it'll be good prep for that too, I'm sure.
Tom, two-part. First of all, it would appear in watching your players that you may have the best listening team you've had in a long time. Before I ask the second, is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it is. I think this team, with Trice and Valentine leading the way, and really BJ's been great, and Costello and Schilling once in a while, they're better students than some, so they don't listen as much. They know where I'm from, and they figure that they know more than I do. But in all honesty, they've all been better, and the freshmen have been like sponges, So I'd say that's a fair assessment.
Having said that, Knight talked about after his career looking back at things. I'm wondering, when you have a group that listens intently and wants to please you, do you almost have to cut back on yelling or being overly critical just because they listen so well that maybe they won't take it in the right sense? I mean, is that something I'm just curious, because you've been there, you're a Hall of Fame coach, just your thought process there.
Hall of Shame, yeah. It's, I don't think you can be somebody you're not, number one, but I do think that what players don't understand and people don't understand, but as a parent and anything else, if you tell your kids to do something once and they do it wrong, you live with them. If you tell them twice they do something wrong, you live with them. When you start getting it 3, 4, and 5 times, you don't live with them. I don't live with Steven any different than I live with Denzel. It is what it is, and I don't think most of you do. It's just, keeping kids focused in on what they got to do and realizing that what you're telling them to do is trying to make them something that they want to be. They just have no clue on how in the hell to get there. And that clue is getting wider right now, if you ask me. And so holding kids accountable, if people would only realize the only thing you're doing is you're holding them accountable to their dreams and goals, not mine. That's where I think I feel very comfortable in my own skin, is I'm trying to do, they ask me, they tell me what they want to be, if you want to be a scientist, you maybe don't take all kinds of foreign language classes, you home in on math and sciences, and that's kind of like it is for me. If they want to be great basketball players, well, then you got to home in on that. If you don't want to home in on that, then there's going to be a problem. And until you decide to change your goals, my job is to hold you accountable to them. And I don't know why that's so difficult. I don't know why it's so difficult for people to understand. I've never understood that. So because I got a better listening team, they should learn better. That means they should make the same mistakes less often. And if they do that, we're going to be a better team. You're going to find out that when a coach knows that a kid is doing what he can do to accomplish the objectives of the kid and the program, then you don't have any confrontation. If they're not, they're going to get it here.
Couple of quick things. Just on Forbes, do you, again, on the time frame, how long exactly do you think he'll have? You don't know.
I don't know, Joe. It's it's not like Dawson's. It's they couldn't even find it for a while. It's a very small. I don't even want to say a fracture, like a little chip moved, but it was causing some pain and discomfort, and it was causing so he didn't have the strength to pass the ball with that hand. And I think he's doing a lot better now, and I don't think this is going to be a 2-3 week deal, but I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be off this week either. Is he going to play with that against Navy, against Duke, and then maybe the next week? Probably. But, I'm such injuries to me, I'm glad I'm not in medicine. That's all I can say.
And
I'd be fired. Hey, you wouldn't be so good either, brother.
And then just on Denzel, you've talked about how much he's worked on different things. Do you look at his, even like his long-term outlook differently based on the way he, and in other words, maybe as a pro at someday? Maybe
someday,
differently
I definitely
than
think
maybe
he
you
is.
even did before?
I always thought he had a chance to be. What we got to make sure we do now, don't be a fan. You guys are with us day to day, and I don't mean that negatively to fans, but we played 2 exhibition games, against competition that's not the quality of we're going to play Friday night, Tuesday night, or any other night the whole year. And that's not insulting to them either. It's why they have Division 1, 2, and 3. Take it from a guy who played at that level. It's a little different, but those, Joe, are the things that I think are the hardest for us. I have no clue, but I can imagine what you thumbless people are doing, what you're reading and everything now, because, you have a triple-double. How many have we had? 8 in the history of our school? That's even more than I thought. So that puts you at a different position. And trust me on this, to do it, if you're doing it against, Division 6 or Division 1, it's difficult because it means you're skilled in a lot of areas. And Denzel has played really, really, really well. And yet now teams will start game planning for that, and they'll be doing some different things. They don't have much scouting reports on us either, and now they will. And, I think we'll learn a lot about where he is now, too, in the next couple of weeks. But to complement what you're saying, that guy has worked. Those of you that you're all 90% of you from Lansing area, and that kid has worked harder. If you're talking to anybody on the streets, there's no way that anybody that I've had has maybe worked harder than Denzel. And I think I've had some pretty hardworking guys over the years, but, he's watching film. He is what he is. He's a coach's son, and his dad is harder on him than his coach. That's a pretty good combination for success, if you ask me, because that isn't the case most of the time. And I give credit to Denzel. I give credit to his dad. I give credit to his brother. His brother has done a nice job in the role he's at. But, you know, it's hard to get carried away by the two exhibition game, but it's hard to downplay it either. And do I see him as a guy that the day will come when I think he'll be playing 4 or 5 times a week? Yes, I do. I really do.
Tom, Marvin Clark, to me, looked less lost in the second game than he did the
Yeah.
first game. Is he to the point where you're going to use him, and is his skill set
Yeah,
force him?
I think he played the least minutes of the 9, you know. When I look back, I think over the 2 games he played in average 14 minutes a game, and he's definitely he's the strongest player on our team. He's not the toughest. What I mean by that is that's one of his, you know, I got to find some guys with a little more dog in them, you know, and Marvin's a nice kid and he's got to get a little more dog in him, but he's starting to pick up things better, and I'd say that's a very good evaluation, less lost. I mean, the first game he was just kind of deer in the headlights, and I think he made some strides the second time, and I was excited about that. He practiced well the next day. Looking forward to today's practice since we had yesterday off, see how he does today. But yeah, he's a guy that I think is moving up in the list. And the only problem we have is trying to move him and BJ around a little bit because he doesn't, you know, hasn't picked up things quite as well yet. And so I hate to move him positions because I could use that right now with JB being out and Bren, you know, the question marks on Bren.
With your 20th season approaching with the regular season starting off on Friday, is that something that you put, significance in, especially considering?
Yeah, especially considering that nobody lasts that long, I guess, or not many. I never thought about it until everybody started making a big deal about 20, and a 20 is just a number. What's it different than 19? It's 1 year different, but for some reason it's a milestone period and or time, and when you look around the country, I guess what makes me feel good is we've been able to consistently hang in that pretty solid way of running our program, and so that's the significance of it. The years, I don't know, like I said, I know guys in here that got 39 years, 35 years. They just became head coaches earlier. But I think anybody that stays in the same place, God, I think 10 years anymore is getting harder if you look at around the nation who has stayed. But 20 is a pretty good number, and 25 would be a better number if, we can keep doing what we're doing.
Back when it was announced Detroit was going to be a Final Four, I don't know if you remember this conversation, but you were with me and Joe after practice walking up the steps, and you talked about, boy, that may be a good time to go. And you looked at us and said, I'm not Judd. I'm not a lifer. I'm not going to be here. And now you're talking about maybe 25. I'm curious, you've turned down multiple NBA jobs now. So now are you becoming Judd? Are you morphing into that which you most despised?
No, I'm not becoming Judd. I say that with reverence. It all comes down to how you feel and where the program's at and what's going on. And I feel great. And the program, I think we're back on a little upswing. I just think who we're recruiting, what we're doing, the young players we got, who we got in next year, I think we're moving forward. Now, that doesn't mean the day I do get out, it's not going to be because we're going backwards. That'd be the last place I'd want to do this for what this place has done for me. But, I think I'm so honest with all you guys, especially some of you guys that have been around. There are leaving would not be because of burnout or fatigue or not doing my job. It'd be because if I don't like the direction things are going and things like that. And I said there are issues with college sports right now. You guys write about them every day, and I agree with most of what you write, other than Drew, but I really do. And I don't know where that puts me, but it puts me where I'm still fighting the boards and different things to see where we can get college basketball and now college sports, and with our president on that committee, with Mark Hollis, now so much more influential. I think you're going to see Mark Dantonio. There's got to be some things that we figure out with this system We're all learning new things with this conference, the way that's gone, and it's going to be interesting to see how the travel and all that go. There's so many new things happening that I'm happy where I'm at. I like what I'm doing. I'm frustrated over some situations, but I'm probably not going to let frustration over situations get me down. It'll be frustrations if I'm not getting the job done. That'll be my time to bolt. Ain't before Louis does, though, right, Louis? The guy that's lost all the weight he does. I'm proud of you, man. Anything else? Todd, got a feeling it's going to get a little tougher than it was this week. Thanks, guys. Undefeated.